My church has brought me everywhere from Jehovah's Witnesses to the likes of Armani's, you know, the name it and claim it churches kind of thing.
Was it right that the Jehovah's Witnesses got you interested in the Bible?
I would say that that's a fair statement, actually. They started me off asking questions that people would answer for me. It just wasn't their fault that their own answers let them down.
Yes. Right.
You know, they did encourage questions to begin with. And then when my questions became that little bit too probing, and their answers, their formula answers, weren't capable of answering the questions to my satisfaction, then it was time to move on to another source of information.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, finding the Covenant Fellowship, that first day ever going through the door, I'd had so many different samples of Christianity, in inverted commas, that I was sort of saying in my own mind, you know, if this isn't it, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to try and go it alone. But the Spirit was in Raymond the same day, and I thought, okay.
Yeah.
You know, there's no bells or whistles on any of this. It all seems to be straight off the page. I might come back for another look, and you've never been able to get rid of me since.
We've tried, but haven't.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff, I mean, I had a lot of humps to get over, and it really did take some time, but when I woke up to the fact that Jesus Christ is my salvation, and there is nothing I can or have to do but accept it.
Yes.
I would have to say that would be one of the sweetest moments in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really and truly. I mean, I thought I had a pretty good life before I became a Christian, but it pales to insignificance compared to what I have now.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Yeah. Well, it sort of brings the next question up, like, I mean, of all the churches in Galway, why Covenant Fellowship? Like, I mean, there's some pretty trendy ones out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. But I really needed to feel safe, spiritually safe. I needed to be sure that how I worshipped God was what God wanted from me. And the only way to be sure of that is to get it from the Bible. Now, having been brought up a Catholic and having looked at Jehovah's Witnesses and one or two of the other more trendy churches, I'd say that qualifies me as an expert in how people use the Bible to con you and to fool you. So I really needed to be in an environment where I could trust the people who were preaching. I could trust the people that I went to ask for help when I was reading and couldn't understand something. I needed to be in an environment where I could trust the answers I got. And I found that in the fellowship. You know, I found there's a sense of family there. And that sense of family is born because we all trust why we're there. It was at that point I thought to myself, like, this fellowship here, the teaching, the style, the way it's off the page or it's not there. Where everything is questioned, where you're encouraged to question, where, you know, the minister says, don't take my word for it, check the book. You know, there's something really secure in that. I feel safe inviting anybody, anybody I know.
You're a history buff, and you're doing a history degree at the minute at the college, and I've heard rumours that you've been having opportunities to speak to people in the college. You see God opening those doors, and
without a doubt, see, therein lies the problem. because I see the door open and I'm not allowed to remain silent.
Yes.
I have to speak.
Do you find it easy?
No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I find my heart in my mouth more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always afraid of a hostile reaction.
Yeah.
More accurately, I'm always afraid of how I would react to a hostile reaction.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to get up in anybody's face and preach at them. But I want them to know that Jesus does love them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, and that the salvation is there for them and it's free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as much as it is for me. And that there is nothing and there is no one unforgivable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Praise God.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
You like about it?
I think Frank Smith once summed it up brilliantly. He said, before we were praying once in our service, he said, you know, if all of us just met in a room and we weren't Christian, we would have no reason to meet, in fact, he said.
Yeah.
If we weren't all Christian, we'd have no reason to meet. We were all so different. And one of the things I like is the diversity, because I think diversity in any organisation, to the level that we would have diversity in the Covenant Fellowship, we're of different generations, ages, sensibilities, backgrounds. Some are, you know, between, you know, older, younger students, bohemian, 9 to 5, rural, urban, different nationalities. All of these things, if I see diversity, I know that what's going on there is truthful.
Yeah. Well, you're an actress, and as far as I know, you're the only actress in the Reformed Presbyterian Church, although I may be wrong there.
We could, hopefully in a while you won't be.
And I was just wondering, like, how has the church helped you in terms of being an actress? I mean,
they've been, first of all, really open to it. I am aware that sometimes the arts is viewed with suspicion by certain sections of the Christian community, and I don't believe that's right. And I've fortunately really learned that either does the Reformed Presbyterian Church believe that's right. So certainly from the beginning of my walk, I was really encouraged. One of the first books I was given to read, I think it was as a Christmas present from Raymond, was the biography of Nigel Goodwin, who started the Christian arts community and really, you know, brought it together. And when he gave me that book, I mean, Raymond was saying something very strongly to me, as well as he was coming to see my shows, is he was saying, this is what you do is fine, you don't have to change that. And I remember then you gave me a book, Addicted to Mediocrity by Francis Schaeffer, and I recommended it at a talk that you'd organised. I can't tell you how important the arts is really in relation to Christianity. I don't think some people really understand in the Christian community. People kind of forget that, want to pretend it doesn't exist, and create a subculture and subsequently ghettoise themselves away from the world, away from the people they're trying to save. They've nothing in common, they've nothing to talk about because they've bought into this. I suppose one of the things I started doing was, because I hadn't met Christians that just worked around me or were there, they were always the other, and I knew I was the only one, just letting people know first of all that I am a Christian, that I am a churchgoer, and that, you know, that, and then, you know, people are curious about what you believe. So sometimes I would find myself saying, well, you know, it's written in the Bible, such and such, and that's where I get my information from, because that's where I'm coming from. And in fact, a friend of mine, Jackie, who I'd known for years, asked me about a few things and started asking me about my faith one evening. And I was almost not secretive about it, but I just kept saying to her, well, that's what I believe now. You don't have to believe that, you know, you can believe. And she was going, I want to know what you believe and what you know. She said, because I'm curious about what you know or believe. And I kind of found myself asking her why. And she said, because, you know, a lot of the people in the arts I know, you have common sense. And I, you know, that was after knowing this woman, 13, 14 years. Some people, like, I mean, I'm in a profession, a lot of the arts are where people are on the one hand very open and on the other closed. They're so open sometimes, liberal, they can be closed to Christianity. Because I think when you talk about Jesus, something about Jesus ring true and people will pursue it when it comes up. And this actor, you know, he was counteracting, he was all about Eastern religion, very into it. And my friend Dermot, I suppose, was in the middle, listening to both of us, and he came up to me afterwards and said, you know, I'd really walked away from Christianity, and that, you know, thinking about what he grew up with, you know, as a person from the public, he said, you've made me think about re-exploring that and looking at that again. I used to pray before a particular show, and by the end of the run, the whole cast used to ask to pray with me. So sometimes in shows, if certain actors notice I pray before a show, they might ask to pray with me. Now they may do it for other reasons, but they're certainly intrigued.
I think that's good.
You know, that I pray before I go on stage. So I don't know. That's you gotta be there. Like there's no point praying for China if there's no missionaries in China.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? There's no point in me praying for the people who work in the arts if I'm not just around there, just present, just present.
Yeah.
People can be curious enough. They'll ask.
Yeah.
It was God's will and God's purpose in this setting that despite the worst efforts of the Jews, Paul would be kept safe. Let's see how God did this, because it's a great encouragement to us to believe in the providence of God and His sovereign control over everything that happens. There are many people in our world today who do not believe in the providence of God. What do they believe in? Well, people don't believe in the providence of God. Many believe in the force of an impersonal fate. That your fate, that the outcome of your life is set and fixed, as it were, in the stars.
He was going to punish them. He was going to use this wicked nation to come and to judge this people. That was okay. But then Habakkuk had another question.
Bow down within me. This I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. The Lord's loving kindness indeed never cease, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness.
George Galway, Private Community and Ability West.
Welcome to Galway and welcome to the Ashling Christian Bookshop. If you want to have a look around here and see a selection of books, there's quite a number of recent publications there if you see them in front of you. The variety of children's Bibles and young people's books on the left, and some cards straight in front of you there. If you look in the corner here, we have videos and DVDs for hire at reasonable prices, and there's a wide selection looking at the different religions that there are in the world. Lots of children's videos, and just in front of you are cards and more cards and mats and fridge magnets, that type of thing. So to the right here you've got a wide selection of Bibles and books on C.S. Lewis, who's well known to many people, and a section on the cults and some Bible cases.
We were so far away from, for example, where the intermelders were, that we sort of felt that we were almost cut off. You know, Raymond would meet up with the intermelders, and then we would see the intermelders when they came down to deal with, say, the Lord's Supper, or if a problem arose in the ground and they had to come for that, we would see them then. But in effect, they were gone. We didn't see them. Now, I don't know what impact we have had as elders. I'm not saying we've been the best thing since last pan, if you follow what I'm saying. But what we have done is we've given, we've created, by being appointed by the folks, we've created the impression that we're a little group and we've got our own leadership. And we have a connection with the leadership, rather than the leadership being sort of out of town. Now it's mostly in town. As we've started visitation, which wasn't happening because you can't have guys coming down 200 miles just to go visit a family, you know, every other week. So we've been able to set up visitation to the various peoples. Therefore, we can go and pray with them, and we are available if they have a question or a problem, want to come talk to us. I think from a situation on the ground, there's an improvement in the life of Galway. In the call group for prayer, maximum would be a good night, and you've got 10. Normally you're talking about 8 people. On a Lord's Day we would have about 30 to 40 adults. That can vary, and they're not all our own people, because we get a lot of visitors. We have a good basic core. We have a lot of people around who are committed to the Lord, and we're not quite committed to each other, but we keep turning up every Sunday too. Right? Now, this is no criticism of the folks, because it's really up to all of us to meld together. But we have families who come to us, but they haven't committed to us. We have other families who are committed to us, but don't necessarily turn up on Sunday. So you've got that kind of mix, and it's a strength in that we've got a good basic core group. The basic problem in Galway, and you've got the same problem in Letterkenny, is we were originally a Roman Catholic group, and the Roman Catholic Church has lost its way. It's not only lost its way, it's lost its reputation. So a lot of young people are walking away from religion completely. My own family have done it the same. They walked away from the Roman Catholic Church, and you start talking to them about some other religion, and they say, listen, we've been through that, we had all that, we don't want any more of it. Number of reasons. The first reason is we have the Bridge Club Sunday morning on its own only. The Bridge Club is not suitable as a public building because it has no access for, it has no wheelchair access. We already have 2 members of the congregation who have difficulties, who finds it very difficult getting up the stairs. And unfortunately, an awful lot of others of us are getting to that particular position. So we have no access for wheelchairs. There's only one fire escape to the end, and it could be very difficult to get people out if it was crowded. But as I say, it's not our building, not our problem. Now, when you come to the other things we do, if we have a prayer meeting, you have to have it in someone's house. If we have a mothers and toddlers meeting, we have to have them go out to somewhere or other. Anything we want to do, we have to go out. We have to either rent a hotel room, or we have to use someone's home. We have no centre. Therefore, no centre we can bring people to. We have no centre which gives it. Before this, we had Ardlan Road, which was very small, too small for us, but it was the centre. It was our church. We don't have that. Bridge Club is not our church, you know. So that's why we need a building. We need it for consolidation where we've got to at this point, and secondly, to give us. Now, I know buildings are not the Lord's church. I know the people are, but we still have the problem in that we need a centre to confirm all of that.
Let all the nations praise him. Oris more go Jevon, for great for sure is Avun Graduin, his lasting love for us. Maran a Yilshaft go bra, his faithfulness lasts for how long? Forever. Hallelujah. And hallelujah is a great biblical word meaning praise the Lord, praise Jehovah, praise Yahweh. Mulagi and Tierna, a Keniha Illa. Mulagi and Tierna, a Keniha Illa. Ola na shumolere. Oris more go Jevon Rajin. Oren ayir shako bra. Alleluia.
We have come across quite a few people who are atheistic in their thinking in Galway. It seems to be something that's on the rise in the south of Ireland, maybe due to the rampant materialism and also people's the Roman Catholic Church is now out of favour, so people are more free to express atheistic beliefs. People have been expressing a lot their disbelief in God, and also that they just can't believe the message anymore. So it makes it hard, and you've got to really work hard with people trying to get behind what they're believing and why they believe it, and to challenge them to think more seriously about the being of God and who God is. People have a lot of superstitions as well, which have to be overcome. Silly notions about the particular God that they believe in as opposed to the biblical God. Yeah, it seems that Ireland is a bit slower than on the take-up than other nations. I mean, modern writers would say that atheism is dying in European countries, but it just seems to be taking hold now in the south of Ireland, along with other strange beliefs as well. There certainly isn't the openness that was there when I first went to Galway. Things are harder now than what they were. Well, it'd be nice to say that a lot of people were coming in, but a lot of people are not coming in. New people who are coming in are tending to be Christians, maybe Christians who have problems, Christians who are fed up with charismatic teaching, and it's great to have those people coming in. But in terms of unbelievers coming in, we don't have that many. Although there are some one-to-one Bible studies going on with unbelievers, but they're few. But tomorrow night's a big night in Galway. David Robertson from Free Church of Scotland, Dundee, is coming to speak on Deluded by Dawkins. He's written a book entitled The Dawkins Letters. Yeah. And so we hope to challenge people, and we have put out a lot of posters, given out a lot of invitations to people. We hope we have a good crowd, and that the gospel is clearly presented, and that some of the people that we've invited will come along to this. One of our goals this year is to try and encourage greater interest in evangelism, and to encourage one another in that work. One thing that has encouraged me, I suppose, has been Joanna McCausland. She came to Galway and immediately threw herself into the work, and that's been such an encouragement. She's not somebody you have to push, she's not somebody you have to even encourage too much. She's interested in the work, she wants to do it, and we praise God for that. So her Bible study on a Sunday evening with Koreans and a Polish girl has been good and uplifting, and also her work with the young people as well has been good. So that has been encouraging. Yeah.
name's Joanna McCausland. I'm now a resident of Galway, but I'm originally from County Donegal. I went to university in Dublin after I finished school, and I studied pharmacy there. And after I finished that, I needed to find somewhere to do a placement for a year. I got offered a job in Galway and I came here. One of the reasons why I thought about Galway, or I considered it, was that I'd been on a Go team here the previous year, and I'd met the church and I'd met a lot of the people, and I really enjoyed the week. So I thought, well, at least I know some people there. And I mentioned to Raymond and Billy that I was looking for somewhere to live, and they put me in contact with two girls from the church, and I ended up living with them for 2.5 years. During that time, I really enjoyed it. Made some good friends in the church. My involvement with the church at that time, I just went along as other people do on a Sunday, and went to the midweek. And at that time there were quite a few young kids who were just coming to the age where they would really benefit from some Christian activities, and it was a need identified in the church. So we decided that the best way to do this would be in the form of a children's club on a Friday night. So I was involved with that, and I think it was for about 1.5 years that I did that. Then I left Galway for a year and went off travelling, and at that time I had no plans for what I would do in my return, but in the providence of God I was offered the job again in the hospital in Galway. So I came back, and I remember the first time I met Billy when I came back there, he mentioned to me that some of the kids were outgrowing children's club, and would I like to do to organise something for the kids who were 10 and over. So that was the beginnings of the youth club. So I've been organising that since I came back 2 years ago. The other thing that I've been involved with here is I've been leading a Bible study for, I suppose, young adults for whom English isn't their first language. These have mainly been Korean students, and I really enjoyed doing this. I'd estimate maybe about 15 to 20 people have come along for various lengths of time. Most of them are in Galway learning English. There's a lot of English language schools in Galway, so there's a huge number of foreign students coming to learn English. And a few of them came to church, and they said that they would like to learn more about the Bible, but they found the regular meetings quite difficult to understand. So that's why we started doing a simple English Bible study with them. It's been really good times. I've learned a lot about Korea. We've tasted a lot of Korean food that they've prepared for us. So those are mainly the things that I've been involved with in the Galway church. It's a brilliant church to go to. There's a huge range of people and nationalities in it, and the people they're great to get to know, and have been really a real encouragement to me in my time here. And I'd just like to say, if there's anybody who would like to go to a church where there's a huge need for people to be involved in various ministries, then I would recommend Galway to you. Galway is a lovely city to live in. It's really vibrant, lots of things going on. It's in a beautiful location as well, and there's good job opportunities as well. So if anybody's looking for somewhere to go that's a little bit out of their comfort zone but still on the island of Ireland, then I'd really recommend Galway to you. And there's a huge need, and there's so many other ministries that you could be involved in. And I'm sure Billy and Raymond would be delighted to hear from you.
Well, we're leaving Galway now and heading for home. It's about a 4-hour drive to get home from Galway for most of you. Thankfully, you've only been watching a video, and home is only a matter of minutes away. And fellow RPs are only a matter of minutes away too. In the 4 hours it takes a Galway member to reach their closest RP neighbours, you could take your pick of most of the other congregations in the denomination, travel there, have fellowship, and still be back home. One of the questions we need to ask is, how do we bridge the gap between here and Galway? How do we bridge the gap between here and Galway? Do we bridge it from Creva by planting churches in Cavan and Roscommon? Or from Stranorlar through Sligo, through Enniskillen and then through Sligo? How do we bridge the gap and reach the lost between here and Galway, so that we can then go on beyond Galway? And what role do you have to play in it?
It's found in God's Word, and if you have a Bible with you, you turn to Luke chapter 16. Luke chapter 16, we find Jesus telling his disciples, not just the crowds, but his disciples, a particular parable. There was a rich man whose manager was accused of stealing his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 400. Then he asked the second, "And how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own?" One of the things that strikes me about this passage, one of the key truths in this passage is we're stewards. We are stewards. Jesus is reminding his followers that all they have, it's not just money or possessions, but our time, our resources, our gifts, our abilities. We are stewards of these things. But we as a denomination have been given many blessings. We've the blessings of good teaching. We've the blessings of pastors. We've the blessing of fellowship. And so we're reminded in this passage that we are stewards of that. But the second thing that we see in the passage, and why Jesus tells his disciples this, and why he picks a dishonest man. You think to yourself, why does he pick this dishonest man? He's doing something that my mother, and I think all mothers do. And they say, if you would put half as much effort into learning your Sabbath school lessons as you do into that stupid computer game, you would really know something. If you would put half as much effort in. Listen to what Jesus says. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. The story is told of missionaries who were going to the Amazon rainforest to visit a tribe that had never been reached with the gospel before. And they were all excited. They were going into new territory. And they hacked their way through the jungle and they got to this tribe and they were starting to share the gospel with them. And the boy went into his hut and came out with a tin of Coke. The advertising executives had got there before them. And isn't that a rebuke? You know, the creativity, the drive, the zeal, the passion, the sacrifices that are made by people who have just got a product. And the zeal and the determination, the creativity, the inventiveness that they display to get their product into the hands of people or to do well for themselves as this man was doing. Jesus says that that is a severe rebuke to us. And the challenge that comes to us as we seek to catch the vision for not just Galway, but for the whole of this island is, will we be inventive, creative? Will we make sacrifices? Because there's two things. There's a warning here and there's an encouragement. And they lie in the same verse. They lie in the verse where Jesus says, to the disciples, I tell you now, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. I think there's a solemn side to that. Because one of the things Jesus seems to be saying is that if we do not value Him enough to invest our time, our resources, our lives, our families in Him and in His kingdom, then there's no welcome. I might think that's a bit strong, but it's exactly the same thing as He says elsewhere, that unless a man take up his cross and follow Him, unless we're prepared to leave behind homes and families and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, we cannot be His disciple. There's a challenge to be good stewards of what we've got. Then there's a real encouragement. We'll be welcomed. We'll be welcomed into heavenly dwellings. You know, if we meet this challenge, and we'll see how big the challenge is in a moment, you will be met by people when you leave this earth and you arrive in the kingdom of heaven, and there'll be people welcoming you, and you'll go, who are you? Say, you don't know me, but you prayed, or you gave, or you allowed your children to go and to live in Galway, or Roscommon, or Cork, or Letterkenny, or Leitrim, or Longford. Because you had this involvement, my family came to know Christ. You say, well, who are all the people behind you? Well, they're my friends, and my neighbours, and my work colleagues. And they're in heaven because in human terms of what you invested. Jesus says, use your worldly wealth, use your resources, use what you've got, so that you'll receive a welcome. And I've been really challenged by this as I've looked at it. And as I've looked at Ireland, Northern Ireland has one of the highest concentrations of churches anywhere in the world. Just down the road, there are 90 plus towns of 7,000 people and more that do not have an evangelical church. Do the maths. 90 towns. If it was only 7,000, that's 630,000 people. It's more than that, because it's 7,000 plus. There are reckoned to be 150, or thereabouts, evangelical churches in the south of Ireland. 150. There's more than that in Belfast. Just down the road. Just down the road from here. It is only just down the road. We in Northern Ireland, we think, it's miles away. You know. 150 churches where someone can go and hear about Jesus Christ. If you were to take all the Christians on this island and turn them into gold, the island would tip at this end. We have a huge concentration at this end. Huge concentration. And we, the Reformed Presbyterian Church, have received many, many, many blessings. And I want to challenge the denomination to think about how we can be good stewards. How are we going to reach? What can you do? Some of you are thinking, well, perhaps I'm too old to do anything. You know, think about it. How many years have you been a Christian? 30? 40? Imagine going into a fellowship where most people have been Christians 2 or 3 years, and you've more experience of the Christian life than all the other people put together. Do you think God could use that? Of course He could. Massively. Hugely. Think of all the fine teaching you've had down through the years. I want to finish up just with 3 things that were said in the video. Moira, 2 comments from Moira. Moira said that we must not have a ghetto mentality. But we, in the north, or we in the RP Church, can have the same ghetto mentality. Where we stay together. And we stay in our congregations. Or we stay in our area. We think somebody's moved far if they move down the road 10 miles. So we need to lose that mentality. The second thing that Moira said, there was no point praying for China if there were no missionaries in China. Our point wasn't that we shouldn't pray. The point that she was making was that there was no point for her to pray for the arts if she wasn't prepared to be involved. Because she could be involved. Now, how do we translate that to us? That's a real challenge. There's little point praying for this island if you could be involved but won't be. If you can do something. And I want to take a challenge to you who are parents or grandparents. We love tight-knit families. We enjoy it. That wonderful blessing can become a great weakness, where we want our families to stay close to us. We should have the attitude that we will send and allow our children to go off and to work in Leitrim or Roscommon or Mayo or Cork or Galway. Will we let them go? Will we encourage them to go? Will we encourage older people in our congregations to go? If they can go, we should encourage them to be part of it, to come. We're a feeding church. We should be a sending church. And that brings me just to what Joanna McCausland said. She asked a very, very strange question. She said, if you're looking for a church where there's a huge need. Now, how many of us think that way? We often think, where's a church that I could get well fed or well supported or of good fellowship? Joanna said, if you're looking for a church where there's a huge need. What a way to think. We look at ourselves, we see what God has given us. We look at our families, we see how God has blessed us, and we think, how can we serve God? How can we be wise stewards? How can we be wise stewards? Let's think about it for ourselves. Let's pray about it for ourselves, for our congregations, for our young people, for our older people, that we will become people who will serve by going, by thinking, what can I do with all that the Lord has given me?